So the next speaker is Babita Spinelli. Unfortunately, she is not here. So I'll give a small introduction about Babita Spinelli. Okay, and yeah. So Babita Spinelli is an internationally recognized award-winning psychotherapist, executive coach, mental health consultant, and relationship expert. She focuses on helping people optimize their relationships and thrive in their lives. Babita also works with heart centered businesses to help them grow and be successful while leading their organizations effectively. As a former lawyer and Wall Street executive, Babita also brings a unique perspective to managing mental health issues and relationships in the workplace, developing business strategies relating to human dynamics and resolving high conflict issues. Her corporate background and experience are key to partnering with executives and leaders who recognize the benefit of a holistic approach to lead their organizations and navigating the unique challenges they face in the workplace, in their personal lives, and in their personal relationships. In her private practice and public engagements, she empowers people and organizations to examine and redefine relationships as a tool for personal and professional growth. Babita Spinelli is a sought after human relations expert in media across the globe and has been featured in over 100 media outlets such as Forbes, Bloomberg, ABC, NBC, CNN, Men's Health, Oprah Magazine, Business Insider, Huffington Post, The Washington Post, SXSW, and Mindbody Green. Babita Spinelli is a recipient of the 2022 Prestige Award for Psychotherapist of the Year, the 2019 New York Psychotherapist Award, and was named one of New Jersey's top 10 women entrepreneurs in 2020. Babita Spinelli is also a 2022 SXSW speaker and serves as an advisory board member of Speak as one raising mental health awareness and breaking the stigma through stories. This is the introduction of Babita Spinelli. Thank you. So I'll play the pre-recorded session of the Babita Spinelli. So if you have any questions, you can post in the messages tab so that we can email her. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Babita Spinelli. I'm the CEO of Babita Spinelli Group. I'm a psychotherapist, certified coach, and mental health consultant in the workplace. It is such a pleasure to be here and speak about a topic that I feel passionate about: how shifting mindset can positively impact mental health. And in today's climate, this topic is even that much more important when we think about the world about us and how our mindsets truly are important in how we navigate the world today and our mental well being. An individual's mindset and locus of control have been proven to be linked both physically and to our mental well being. Today, I am going to share how our mindset develops. What are the different mindsets? Why do I feel there's a link? And what are effective strategies to develop a positive growth mindset? When I speak about mindset, what that really means is this: mindset is defined essentially as the attitude, belief, or perception we hold about ourselves. It's what we think about, our basic qualities, our talents, our abilities. Now, our mindset can be conscious or subconscious. We're aware of it, of our mindset, or we're not aware of the mindset that we hold. This is pretty significant because the thing that is important is that our mindset infiltrates everything that we do. It is virtually impossible to turn it off. So, our awareness about what our mindset is and where it comes from and how it can support us instead of being problematic is really key. If we're not aware of it, and if we don't take action to shift it, it can lead to undue stress, anxiety, and depression. Three really significant, important things about our mindsets and mental health. So, how does mindset develop? Simply put, our mindset is shaped by the stories and experiences we learn throughout life. For example, it comes down to our childhood histories, what we've learned early on in our life. It's usually based on what has been modeled for us, what we saw around us, the messages that we've been told, and even sometimes our cultural background. So, how your parents acted or modeled, what your caregivers said, what your siblings modeled for you, teachers, traumatic experiences, big and small, and so on and so on. These formulate how we see the world. These formulate and collectively shape our mindsets. Here are some examples, just some simple ones, but I think to just give you an idea of the impact of our mindsets. If you grew up in a family that modeled frugality, you might have the mindset that money is scarce and you need to save your pennies. This may be a helpful mindset to have to a certain point, but it can be problematic when it's taken to extreme. For example, you avoid spending money on yourself despite having a well-paying job because you feel guilty for being frivolous with your money. If you grew up in a family that believed that everything would always work out, you might naturally have a tendency to have an optimistic mindset. So with this mindset, you may naturally worry less. You'll have less anxiety. But even this messaging or story, when taken to an extreme, you may also have less urgency to resolve problems or be proactive about issues in your life if you think, it's all going to work out. So you can see with some of these examples how our mindsets are formed based on what's modeled for us, but it can go in several directions. Another example, this comes up often. If your parents had extraordinarily high expectations of your performance in school or in sports, there's a high likelihood you absorbed that mindset and grew to have extraordinarily high expectations of yourself. And when I say extraordinarily high, I mean like expectations that are impossible to meet. This mindset can help you push yourself to be successful, but can easily turn into perfectionism or an insatiable need to achieve when taken to an extreme. The good news is about mindset is that it is flexible, meaning you can change it at any time in your life. Yes, that's great news. Over time, experiences you have as a child, as a teenager, and an adult can replace some of that mindset that you developed. In the context of this talk, we'll see how two key elements, stress resilience and a locus of control, can help shift your mindset. I'll also later on describe certain strategies as well. So, as I was saying, our mindset is flexible. So I'd like to talk about two different mindsets, and we're going to also dive into how we can shift from one to the other since our mindset is flexible. The first one is what we would call a fixed mindset, and the second, a growth mindset. There's some mindsets that fall in between, but we're just going to focus on these two categories today. A growth mindset is focused on development. When someone has a growth mindset, they hold the belief that they can fix it, that they can change or improve their abilities. It looks at obstacles or problems as opportunities. This mindset, growth mindset, is open to seeking feedback, to improve, and is receptive to such feedback. It sees the world in an abundant way. The core of this growth mindset is stress resilience. So someone with a growth mindset will tend to have a more glass half full view, be more open-minded in terms of opportunity, in terms of recognizing that, okay, things get messy sometimes, but let me find the gems in the rubble. A fixed mindset is the opposite. It believes that your talents are fixed, that your abilities are unchangeable. This mindset causes us to believe that feedback is criticism. This mindset is often shaming, critical, blaming, and punishing. So someone with a growth mindset does have a more optimistic view, whereas someone with a fixed mindset leans towards a more closed and black and white, hypercritical, or negative view of perhaps even their experiences or a situation or of themselves. So, now that we've sort of looked at these two mindsets, how does this fit into the link between our mindset and our mental health? There is a direct relationship between mindset and mental health. Our mindset can either support our mental well-being or detract from our mental well-being. So how does that happen? Well, as we've traveled through the understanding of the mindset, and if our mindset is like the filter that we see the world, some mindsets, like the fixed mindset, will increase stress because these mindsets often tend to say, I have to be perfect, or no matter how much I achieve, I'll never have enough, or life is just always going to be hard, or I will never be good enough. So these mindsets are going to up-level your stress and anxiety. It'll feed those spaces. Other mindsets can decrease your stress, your anxiety. These mindsets are, the most important thing is I tried my best. It's okay to make mistakes. They're learning opportunities. I can always improve my skills better. So having a positive or growth mindset is inversely proportional to the amount of stress you feel. So even if you're feeling stressed, if you're leaning into that, the more you can shift into that, the more you're going to find yourself lowering your anxiety or depression if that comes up. You're also going to find yourself being able to manage your stress better. And what does that mean? It's not going to show up in mental health aspects, such as anxiety, depression, etc., or unhealthy coping mechanisms. Research shows that a growth mindset can help people to do the following. First, be more resilient. Second, tolerate and manage anxiety. be more persistent in their pursuit of achievements. Fourth, persevere in the face of rejection or failure. Fifth, adopt an effort-oriented strategy to reach goals. And finally, stick with lifelong learning. Research also shows a positive correlation between a growth mindset and positive coping mechanisms. So if you see what I outlined already, if you are able to lean into those things with a growth mindset, you're naturally going to be able to tackle coping things in the time of hardship. Overall, a growth mindset helps people realize their efficacy in changing their circumstances, whereas a fixed mindset leans into stress and anxiety because it doesn't see a way out. So we can really see how this comes together. So let's look at how this all fits. Basically, if we can work with individuals or ourselves on shifting from fixed to growth mindset, or being more self-aware about where we're at in our mindset, we can then influence the decisions we're making. We can influence how we're shaping our lives. And then ultimately, we can lead to happier, healthy lives, which means what? We have positively impacted our mental health because we have noticed what our mindset is, operated accordingly, applied it, and we can start to feel differently about our situations and experiences. Now, it may sound simple when I say this, but it is a process and it does take work. So I'd like to share, how does that work? What are the most effective strategies to make that switch for developing a positive growth mindset? And right now I'm speaking to those of you who actually work with clients, but also those who are taking it in for yourselves. So how does that work? What are the most effective strategies to make that switch for developing a positive growth mindset? I'm going to share those strategies today. It's a journey, but if someone can utilize these strategies, they can influence how they think, which will help their mental well-being. These are some strategies that I use in my practice. Strategy 1, reframing. What is the story you are telling yourself? So we hear a lot about this around the stories or life stories. The current state of your mind and your life is the stories you tell yourself. For example, if your story is not being good enough, it will show up in every aspect of your life, in your relationships and in the workplace, until someone takes a pause and opens their eyes to look at the story they tell themselves in all aspects of their life, work, family. Who said that? What message was that about? Why do we carry that? Our stories will continue to negatively impact how we show up if we don't look at it. And that ultimately affects our mental health. So if you believe what you are telling your subconscious mind, like, I'm not good enough, and you have a limiting belief, that's clearly going to influence how you feel. If you change your limiting stories that you tell yourself, you can shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Strategy 2, look for the opportunity. If you're faced with an obstacle or a challenge, look for that gem in the rubble. Sometimes that can be difficult, but sometimes we do need to say, is there an opportunity in this? Is there something that I've learned? Perhaps if this hadn't happened, I may not have then achieved X, Y, and Z. Or if I didn't go through this obstacle, maybe I wouldn't have met so-and-so person, etc., etc. We also want to see that opportunities are about bettering ourselves. And if something might not have happened, maybe we wouldn't have actually addressed or fixed or changed something that we needed to. Strategy 3, this is a big one. Face the fear and address it. Dealing with your fears helps us to decide what is real instead of sitting what I call the what ifs. Some things you fear will be valid, but others are truly mental worst case scenarios that feed our anxiety gremlin. So instead of letting that swirl around and sitting in that anxiety, we can figure out, how might we tackle this proactively? If we face our fears, we can actually come up with an action plan, and that is growth mindset. Facing fears also help us develop compassion for ourselves, which in turn lessens the inner critic and leads to growth mindset. Another important aspect of facing our fears is it helps truly to develop courage and stress resilience. Stress resilience is the behavior of how we lean into stress with resilience. We reach into that place to tackle something, which is super important to our mental health. Knowing that even if they're challenging moments, we'll figure it out, we'll manage it. That is developing our stress resilience, and we are in turn using facing our fears to develop that, which leads to growth mindset. The next strategy, number 4, is keep things in perspective. Remind yourself of what is going well. Sometimes we need to take that step back, give it that aerial view, and say, maybe I need to just look at the bigger picture. If we are not doing that and we're micro focused, we might not be able to say, hey, what is the long term learning opportunity? What is the overall aerial view I can look at this and shift into that growth mindset? The next strategy, practice positive self talk. Treat yourself like you would, again, that compassionate friend. You could say something like, this may not be great, but I'm doing my best. Or I am getting better and better every day. These words of encouragement, cheering and championing ourselves on, are really helpful to our mental health. They help balance the part of us that might feel stuck, or they balance our inner critic. This is also shifting to that growth mindset. The next strategy is about recognizing resets and fresh starts. Remember when you were a kid and you'd say, I want a do-over? Well, that's what this is. Just saying, hey, you know what? I can also wipe the slate clean or have some version of it. Recognizing that you don't need to feel stuck, that you can take control of a situation by looking at what your choices are and just saying, maybe I need to just have a do-over. Give yourself permission to do that and reset, have a fresh start. And next we have set those clear expectations. Instead of thinking in the micro or maybe just those short-term goals, why did this happen? Should have done this, etc. This is awful. It's always going to be this way. Just take a step back and say, well, what's my long-term vision? Am I looking at this more in terms of a short-term view? And what I'd suggest in this space is ask yourself 5 questions to shape your thinking about how you're looking at a situation. The first question, what can I control in this situation? Often our fixed mindsets think we don't have any control in a situation, but we might, and we should really discern that. What can I control? The second question, where is my power in this scenario? The third, what can I learn from this challenge? The fourth, how can I use the new skill that I got from this to solve future problems? Or is there a new skill that I may not realize that I actually have that could solve the current situation? And the fifth question, going back to the issue, am I leaning into my resources? Am I giving it an aerial view? Where is the opportunity in this issue? We can see how all of these strategies really come together and how it shifts our mindset, but can also manage our stressful situations, which is part of our mental health schema. Now, I mentioned earlier about stress, I mentioned about stress resilience, and I would be remiss to not really define stress right now as we make these connections around mindset, stress, and mental health. The World Health Organization defines stress as the reaction people may have when presented with demands and pressures that are not matched to their knowledge and abilities, and which challenge their ability to cope. But not all stress is equal, and a negative mindset will exacerbate that stress. Let me give you an example. If someone's in a high stress industry, a demanding profession, they will see that stress is part of the fabric of their environment. It can show up in many ways: emotional irritability, lack of motivation, checking out, feeling overwhelmed. Those are all indicators. Also, low energy, difficulty sleeping. Some of these symptoms that show up also can be viewed when we have unhealthy eating patterns, addictive behaviors, binging on television, or numbing ourselves through social media. And I share this example to say if this is taking place for an individual and we continue to lean into these patterns that I described, let's face it, it's going to be an impact on our mental health. It'll just continue and could even be more catastrophic into additional severe unhealthy situations. So we can see how critical our mindset is to mental health as we're connecting the dots between a growth positive mindset or a negative fixed mindset when it comes to managed or unmanaged stress. I'd like to share some of the negative ramifications of unmanaged stress because this is where we can say it's really detrimental to our mental health. So we have mindset connects to stress to our mental health. So when we limit how we see something, it does take that psychological toll. And if we continue to create that unnecessary weight, we continue to not manage our stress, here are some pretty significant consequences that it can have to one's mental health. Burnout. You probably heard this often, and this is one of the biggest risks to our mental health when we have unmanaged stress. And burnout doesn't just happen in a vacuum or at the drop of the hat. It is a slow build that comes from constant unmanaged stress and keeps continuing to go on. Unhealthy coping mechanisms, the inner critic, the being stuck, the staying in the negative mindset, how that shows up through things like burnout. We also have depression and anxiety. You're also at risk of developing that if your stress levels are too high. Now, both depression and anxiety also go hand in hand with burnout. And so these are very significant mental health issues. There are also some other ones that are extremely significant. For example, addictive behaviors, unhealthy patterns of rage or anger. There are also mental health difficulties that can exist if we continue to think operate in a particular way and don't have the tools to handle our difficulties. So, all in all, we can actually see in this journey, if we take a look at where we started with looking at what are our mindsets. What's the distinction between growth and fixed? How do those mindsets influence how we think, what we do, how we feel? Now take those mindsets and throw yourself into life stressors, life events that are difficult, even traumatic. And if we stick to a particular mindset, if we don't deepen our self awareness, work on it, turn into that growth mindset versus the negative fixed mindset, we are unable to manage those stressors, those challenges, which then lead to some significant mental health issues. But if we can, and we do, if we have a growth mindset, a positive mindset, if we utilize strategies to continue to stay in that place, our mental health is more positively impacted. We can be healthier, more fulfilled individuals in our life. Thank you very much.
Wow, so Babita Spinelli, she talked about every single detail. So yes, you are not here, but your presentation was very impressive. So I personally believe that growth mindset is like individuals who believe their talents can be developed through hard work, good strategies, and input from others have a growth mindset. So and also they tend to achieve more than those with a more fixed mindset, right? So those who believe their talents or innate gifts. You are such an amazing, you really gave a very good presentation. Thank you so much. So if you want to, so yes, if anybody want to contact Babita Spinelli, so reach out to me, Melinda, so I can give you the contact details. Okay, so and yes, so let's not wait. Let's go to another speaker. And thank you so much, Babita Spinelli. So, and I think a few of the speakers have questions. So we will email to Babita Spinelli. So, and yeah, bye bye.